I'm Helen Van Wyk, and welcome to my studio again, where we're going to examine the three primary colors, see how powerful they are and how they're the essence of all color. Let me show you something. This, you'll notice, this is a little picture of the painting I did of old dollies. You see it in black and white. Now I'm going to pull this away, and you're going to see color appear. And now it's all blue. This is a proof, a color proof for color reproductions. And now there's going to be more color by pulling the blue away and adding the red. And you're going to see how it's going to be in full color as soon as we add the yellow. Isn't that a miracle? Just three pieces of three colors, and it ends up to be all the colors that I used. And so I have on a palette three colors: red, yellow, and blue. Of course, black and white. Remember, it started out with just tones. And I'm going to paint a picture limiting myself to these three colors plus black and white. I do this as an experiment. I do this to show you how important it is to use the full colors of the spectrum, red, yellow, and blue. I don't think that it's a handy idea to limit yourself to painting with only three colors because, well, it's easier to use more. So I've fortified myself with a beginning again to ease the pain of having to work with such a limited palette. And let me explain what this is going to be. It's going to be a sky, and this is going to be the sun hitting a point that goes out into the ocean, and this is going to be a field, and this is a little inlet right in here of water, and this is Bermuda. Let's take a trip to Bermuda with paint, only three colors plus black and white, and see what happens. So it is true, you can paint all pictures with just the three primary colors in black and white. But your picture is going to be limited to the capacity of these. You can't work in any, let's say, tonal key that you want, or any intensity key that you want, very dull or very bright. It's just going to be limited to what we can possibly get out of these three colors. So let me get a nice big brush, wet the brush down with some turpentine, control its dampness with this trusty old rag, and I'm going to start with the water back there, way back there. Now look at how bright that is. I don't know whether water would be that bright way off in the distance. Let's try it. Ooh. No, I think that it would be duller, and so some black and white in it. Looks a little bit more like it's off in the distance, and let's paint that in. Well, maybe I should talk about my favorite technique while I'm doing this, and that technique has a very fancy name. Many of you remember it. The name is called overlappage. The first thing I do, I make bigger than it is so the next thing can overlap it. So I've made more water than I need, and I've cut into the bank, and I've cut into the foreground. I've even cut into the sky so that I can have a chance to not make this line razor sharp. And this is where the sky was very bright. And now it also was warmish, meaning the blue wasn't as cold. So I used yellow to make it a little bit greener. And see how mushing that together a little bit makes it look a little further away. And why don't I do what I say I do, and that is to overlap. Whenever your paintbrush seems to drag too much and you have to exert a lot of effort, juice it up more so that you can get a much wilder spread. Not so thin that it shows the canvas through, but enough to enjoy the flow. And now, I'm doing this from memory, a little sketchy memory, when Herb and I were in Bermuda, and there was a time that all our vacations specialized in one thing: rain. And this happened to be late afternoon when the rain finally stopped and this wonderful cloud effect or sky effect happened. There was a cloud, and with yellow and a little bit of red. These delicious colors started to happen. You can see by the way these colors are mushing a little bit together that I already have the illusion of air. See, the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, are ever present. You don't make a painting by putting blue here and putting orange here, or, orange being the mixture of yellow and red. You amalgamate the three primary colors in close proximity, so they vibrate. The three colors I'm using are phthalo blue, Windsor red with alizarin crimson mixed together. The one or the other wasn't the right red to be able to get away with this experiment. Cadmium yellow light, and of course white, and black. Gotta have black. I know the purists say you can't use black, but I'm not a purist. I'm trying to make this work. And then there were some remnants of the rain, dull, darker tones of kind of a gray. So I'm mixing all of these together. Now, I've made that. It's too dark and it's too purple, more white. Still too dark. Maybe I should work out of another puddle instead. I miss my big palette. I sure miss that big palette. I can't seem to find a place. Ah, there we are. That's better. And so these dark little remnants of the storm seem to still be hanging around. One of the things that makes the reasons why it's a good idea to have more color on your palette, because you don't have to do that much mixing. I have to mix a lot. I have to experiment so much with black and blue and red and a little yellow to try to get that neutral gray that neutral warm gray that I see over there. There, that's better. Now, all that mixing can dull your color sometimes. Now, if I had burnt umber on my palette, a dark, dull yellow, I could have mixed black and white and burnt umber and put blue in it and gotten that color right away. But see what a sacrifice I make for you people to have you realize that the three primary colors are the essence of color. And also that painting is just a matter of making do. If you only have three colors, make do with three colors. Just make sure they're the three primaries. Now the sun really came and hit that land formation, white, yellow, a little red. Typically Bermuda. It's at this time that so many beginner painters get nervous. They look at it and say, it doesn't look like anything. So they start rushing around and start trying to make it real. There's no such thing as making paint real. Paint is paint. You just want to give the impression of real. So give your procedure at least a chance. Now, because I've gotten some more in, it starts to look a little bit more like a scene. You shouldn't judge your picture too quickly, and you should never let anyone else do it either. People have a temptation to come up to you and start, especially if you work outdoors, you get an audience. People come around and they either, the nice ones say, ooh, and ah, isn't that wonderful, and you an artist, and so on, but then there's some who say, I don't think I see it that way. So you got a kibitzer. Well, that's the worst thing to have happen, because it can distract you. You start to respond to his negative rather than to your positive, wonderful feeling that you're going to get what you wanted. You know, one time I was having a wonderful time in my studio. This is when I lived in New Jersey. I was having a wonderful time. I was painting daisies. Oh, and it seemed to be going so well. And my girlfriend walked in. She turned around, she looked at the picture, and she says, gee, Helen, what are you painting that for? So I moved to Massachusetts. Just couldn't take it any longer. And this nice little bit of blue inlet came in here. We constantly have to be aware of the value of the color, how light you want the color to be. And the only way you can tell how light or dark you can make your colors is to put them all in and relate them. For instance, I really can't see how this lighting on this point is going until I put in the value of the foreground. Landscape painting is usually divided into three parts too. The number 3 comes up all the time. 3 primary colors, 3 portions in a landscape. The distance, the middle distance, and the foreground. And you really should let them react together right from the beginning of the picture, so you can see not only the composition, but the atmospheric condition that you're imposing onto the canvas with paint. And then there was a little roadway that came this way, but it was in shadow. So that's the lay-in of the three distances, or the three areas of a landscape: the distance, the middle distance, and the foreground. And let me see how these limited colors have what they've done. We're taking this trip to Bermuda primarily to stress the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and that you can possibly paint a picture with them. It's a subtle mixing process, a very good experiment for you to try. You'll learn a lot. The picture may not turn out, but that doesn't really matter. Every picture you paint should be an experiment to try to learn more. As I step back, I noticed that this coloration of the bank of these rocks just didn't look colorful enough. You make the wrong color first, and then say, oh, I don't like it. And then you say, how come I don't like it? It looks too pale. And so you can brighten it up. And that looks more Bermuda-ish to me. Although it's been a long time since I was there. And in order to have this picture have any kind of real drama of the fact that it had rained, I need this to be very dark. Well, I took a dark, dull green. Blue and yellow make green. Not dark enough. I made you put black, but now that's too green. It's not shadowed enough. It's not murky enough, and then that's where you have to use the complementary red. So it ends up that I'm using all of them, all three. And all three with one predominating. There. Some trees. I don't want that tree to go up that high. It would kiss that and attach itself to that, and that would stop the foreground from looking as though it's in the foreground. It would start to marry the distance. And this is even more shadowed here, so this would be even more red into this dark green mixture. Those cellophane colored colors that made that colors of the print possible can be done with three colors because the three colors are isolated. They're not mixed. When you paint, you are mixing them, and so the experience isn't quite the same. You see, the yellow was separated from the red, and the blue was separated from the other two. And so it works in transparent application, but not in opaque application, which is what oil painting is all about. You're always mixing value into your paint, into your color. Then starts to look greener in the shadow. So often people like to take paints away on their vacation and they say, oh, I can't take them because I have so much equipment. You don't have to. You can just take a little palette, the 3 primary colors in black and white, and make little comments. Make comments on a little board, a canvas. Not that that's going to be a precious painting of yours, but it's going to be a chance for you to have a strong memory of where you've been because you've looked at it a long time. And you've been impressed a long time. That's what gives a picture of vitality. That's what gives a picture of honesty, because it's a record of your impression, of your vision of it. So sometimes if we don't look at a thing long enough, we don't have a good vision of it. This is where the sun just seemed to break through and hit this road, and it hit it a little bit right there too. Notice how I'm going to paint this roadway, not this way, but this way, in lines like this, because that's going to make the roadway lay flat. I hope. I hope. That's what it's on the end of a brush. Hope. And lots of paint. Well, if the sun did stream and hit that roadway there, surely it would have hit the greenery too. And so a brighter spot of green here. And as it came across and dissipated into shadow again. Yes, you can always paint lots of little things with a big brush. If you just don't try to make big swipes with a big brush, short little jabs. This is bad in here. It's leading out. I want the water to stay in the picture. I think I'm going to come up higher. And that was nice little pasture land. Here, there seemed to be patches of planted, planted area here, and then a little different planted area right in here. And bushes that seemed to separate it. Want to get that away from that. And so here we are with the canvas covered with a variety of colors that comes only from yellow, red, blue, black and white. here it comes. I may teach you how to make soup.